Welcome to Garden Plants with Jim Putnam. Let's talk Raulston Hardy Viburnum. Before we talk about Raulston Hardy dwarf Viburnum obovatum, we need to talk about the native Viburnum obovatum, which is native to the southeast. It's a plant that got pushed in the last ice age down to the south, and so it's actually quite a bit hardier than the areas that it's native to in the southeast. These are hardy in zones 6 to 10. But the regular Viburnum obovatum becomes a big rangy shrub in the wild. It can get 15 feet tall or so. So this selection here, called Raulston Hardy, is a dwarf variety. It only reaches about 3 feet in height, but slightly wider than that. This thing is an absolute blooming machine, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. It's evergreen, and but in the late fall, going into winter, after we get a frost on it, it takes on a bit of a purplish hue to it, depending on how cold the winter is. As we're coming out of winter right now, you can see the thing in full bloom, and the leaves have greened back up. I'm in front of the D.H. Hill Library at North Carolina State University to shoot this video because they have like 100 of them planted out here in the front. And they're really, really striking here in full bloom in March. One thing I want to point out is we had a 23-degree night a week ago, and with about a 30-mile-an-hour wind, and these were completely unfazed. It's kind of crazy. I said they were hardy in 6 to 10. They're very, very cold hardy. These will get a few flowers starting in the fall, and throughout the winter, on warmer days, you'll see more flowers, and by March or April, just in full flowers. So it's extremely long bloomed, and I see some residual flowers on regular Viburnum obovatum and this dwarf cultivar that, even during the summertime. These flowers will turn to a red fruit, which will eventually turn black, and then birds will take them. These are not, the fragrance on these, like a lot of Viburnum, are not the best. It's not terribly offensive. I'm right here next to it. The wind's stirring. I have to get in here to really find out that it doesn't smell great. But it's not too, it's, again, I don't want to overblow that because this is a great, great ornamental plant with a lot of great uses that we'll talk about in a minute. These are out here in the full sun, in the middle of the absolute full sun, and they have this super dense, compact habit, but this plant will grow great in light shade as well. So where are we going to use evergreen shrub that gets 3 feet in height by about 4 feet in width that blooms almost all winter? Well, almost anywhere. This is a great foundation plant. You can see how beautiful they are mass planted out here in front of the library. These are going to be great on slopes, as for erosion control, as just a single plant. They're great for attracting wildlife into your landscape because, again, this is a native plant. Just a tremendous amount of uses, and I am really, really super drawn to this plant every time I see it because I was just so used to regular Viburnum obovatum, which is, again, just a rangy plant that I used to grow at my nursery. Great native, but this just really changes that and almost gives us a native boxwood replacement. This rugged native plant really doesn't require any special planting instructions. Just don't plant it too deep. Although Viburnum obovatum in its kind of native habitat tend to grow in wetter areas, and so this is a plant that I would call extremely drought tolerant, extremely tolerant of tough soil conditions, and then also pretty tolerant of wet conditions. If you had an area that stays a little wet, but then when you plant plants in an area that you know is going to stay wet, mound them up a bit, get the crown of the plant up a bit. But this is a plant that will actually tolerate just a wide array of tough soil conditions and tough heat conditions. I'll fertilize these in the late winter with an organic fertilizer like I fertilize everything in my landscape. And if it needs a pruning, it can be done. You don't have to do a lot of pruning on this plant. I think you're going to probably take off one wild branch here or there more than you're going to have to do any general pruning. This is how they grow. They're pretty compact, but there might be a limb here or there that sticks up. I really would like to limit the amount of pruning we're doing on these because they're long bloomed, and so the bees get to take advantage of, our native bees get to take advantage of these through the winter time and into early spring. And then as long as we're not doing a lot of pruning on them, then the fruit will mature and the birds get to take advantage of them. So limit the, put it in a space where you can allow it to get 3 feet tall and 4 feet wide. That's what I'm saying. So you don't have to do a lot of pruning on it. And beyond being tolerant of tough soil conditions, these are also deer resistant and rabbit resistant, which is, something that almost everybody seems to be looking for in their landscapes these days. So this is Raulston Hardy, Viburnum obovatum. Thanks for watching.